Hello, BookTube. I'm playing a little hooky again, and I'm using you to do it. You're my unwitting accomplices. I got hit with another ninja deadline out of the blue. This one is considerably more work than the last one, and it's the timeline is ridiculous. The editor who imposed it knows perfectly well that she's asking the impossible. I will do it, but but I'll have to block out everything else. It sort of wipes the table clean for a lot of what I had already planned for the next 12 hours. And that makes me want to delay it just a bit. So I thought we'd go on a little nosy through my mail. I've got a periodical and a package that showed up in the mail slot, and I snatched them both from oblivion before a torrential thunderstorm broke over Boston. Frida and I were actually I should show her to you, shouldn't you? Or Caleb will get angry. So here. Your doting fans want to see you. Who's that? Oh, who's that? They like seeing you. They think you're cute. I was outside with Frida. It's a little too hot and humid. She doesn't like being out in hot and humid weather. She doesn't like being out in cold weather either. So I think I'm learning something about this dog, or maybe terriers in general. But one way or another, we were out there, and the sky was just getting blacker and blacker, more and more threatening, and it was vibrating with thunder and distant lightning. So we hurried back inside once she had done her filthy, sinful business, and I remembered at the last minute to grab everything out of the mailbox in case it got blasted. And one of the things was the London Review of Books, the new London Review of Books. So I was happy to see, because I was having a little bit of a London Review of Books withdrawal, because the previous issue was Andrew O'Hagan reporting on the Grenfell Towers fire, and that's all it was. It had to be 60 or 70,000 words. All of NaNoWriMo, a whole NaNoWriMo installment, just on the story of the Grenfell Tower fire. What caused it, who's responsible, who was in it, who lived, who didn't. And it made for very gripping reading. But it was only that one subject. When I was done with that very gripping reading, I was done with the issue. So I was happy to get back to variety. And so I thought we'd take a look and see what we have here. I'm sure that the letters page of this issue of the London Review would be entirely devoted to that piece. It couldn't be devoted to anything else, because the whole issue was about that. But when I go through here, I like to see who's doing what. I like to see which books they've chosen for review in this issue. I like to see whether or not any of the paid in-house ads from publishers have blurbs by yours truly, or by anybody that I know. Okay, so the first long review is on a book from for The Fall of the House of FIFA, about soccer. It's by David Runciman, who's really good, but I'm probably not gonna read the review, because I'm definitely not gonna read the book. Oh yeah, okay. And then the letters page is devoted to Andrew O'Hagan's. Oh no, there are some others. There are some other letters, but it's mostly devoted to Andrew O'Hagan's long piece. Then the University of Chicago Press has a whole bunch. They have a paid ad page, but they don't do any of the books that I've reviewed for them this year, so I'm not going to be on there. And then we have Pankaj Mishra, who's it's a bad idea to miss him. He's really, really good. That'd be the only reason, actually, that I would read the David Runciman piece, because he's really, really good, no matter what he writes about. So the same thing is true with Pankaj Mishra 10 times over. So he's writing about Yasha Monk's The People versus Democracy, and Samuel Moyne's Not Enough, Human Rights in an Unequal World. I don't think I've read either one of those, but I'll still read him. University of Cambridge Press has a full-page color ad, but nothing by Steve. Nothing. Then Rosemary Hill reviews 2 books on Byron's daughter. There's one In Byron's Wake by Miranda Seymour, and one Ada Lovelace by Christopher Hollings, Ursula Martin, and Adrian Rice. Despite my love of all things Lord Byron, I did not read either one of those books. So we're not doing too well here. This will probably be a London review where I'm much more study the writers and what they're doing just on a prose level than I study their reactions to what they're reviewing. Helen Thompson writes about the UN. Terry Eagleton writes on Fintan O'Toole's new book, Judging Shaw, which I don't think I ever got. I don't think it's available in this country yet. But I'll definitely read it. I think I always read everything about George Bernard Shaw, and wish that I had more of it to read. Oh no, Lauren Euler reviews The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer. She's a really smart writer. I read her in The Baffler. And my guess is going to be that she's not going to like The Female Persuasion. Actually, let's find out. Let's break a cardinal rule here and go to the end. We'll read the end and see. The internet only occasionally rears its head in The Female Persuasion as a nuisance for Faith, one of the characters, or as casual diversion for Greer, another one of the characters, who Skypes with Corey when they're apart and reads a blog called Femme Fatale that is, quote, personal essay heavy, often sarcastic, talking openly about sex acts and bodily functions, and describes itself as sex positive, snark friendly, in your face, but also just damn good read. Close quote. I found this deeply annoying, though I suppose I find most things deeply annoying. I love this writer. But I'm not going to like her conclusion. I know I'm not. Jezebel, the real site that most resembles Femme Fatale, would never have a tagline so cheesy. She's obviously reading a different Jezebel than I am. The young characters in the Femme Fatale speak in stilted dialogue, narrating fully formed ideas in a distant version of the way millennials talk. Not even the hippest of them, Z, is ever allowed to utter anything that's authentically zeitgeisty. Yet, in a strange way, the novel, at 464 pages, also seems written for online readers, with broad strokes that assert nuance with the opposite of nuance. That's somebody earning her paycheck. Let's read that again. With broad strokes that assert nuance with the opposite of nuance. Wolitzer has represented what it's like to be a certain kind of woman who grew up in the last decade, the kind who reflexively cares about other, quote, women's stories, who understands that her own is not extraordinary and doesn't know what to do about it, who can solve all her problems and earn a handsome living by, to paraphrase Nora Ephron, treating them as copy. Even the critical response, the insistence that Wolitzer has accomplished what she set out to do in The Second Shelf, aligns with a contemporary tendency. In an attempt to counteract the sexism Wolitzer describes, critics frequently overestimate work by and about women. Okay, so is that directed inward at the events of the novel, or is that directed at Wolitzer? Or maybe is it directed at critics? All right, let's see. Reading the novel while watching its reception, never a good idea. Reminded me of the way last year's New Yorker story Cat Person by Kristen Rupenian went viral. It did indeed. The frenzy surrounding the publication of that story involved the pleasant surprise that a work of literature that happened to be written by a woman had made such a splash on the attention-deficit internet. No. With Cat Person, you absolutely cannot get away with the quick parenthetical that happened to be written by a woman. Absolutely not. You absolutely cannot get away with it. Not only would the New Yorker not have considered publishing that exact same story word for word if it had been written by a man, but if anybody else had, the man would have been pilloried out of the profession. He would no longer write for a living. He would be working in an auto shop somewhere. No. You can't put it into parentheses. It's not that happened to be written by a woman. The whole point of it is that it was written by a woman. But anyway, I shouldn't keep interrupting her. Had made such a splash on the attention-deficit internet. But in fact, it was perfectly positioned to do so. Not only did it mimic the form of viral content, what it's like to be on a bad date, as it were. Okay, but that wasn't the gist of Cat People. Cat Person. Not only did it tell you at the end what to think of it, but it did so with the illusion of a higher purpose. It was a work of literature, even if some readers didn't recognize this and called it an essay or an article. And that's how the piece ends, with a half a paragraph long description of a New Yorker story. instead of the female persuasion. And totally ambiguously. I mean, is she saying, I'll have to read the rest of the review to find out, but is she saying that the novel fails? Or is she saying that its failure or success is irrelevant because it is tapping into something like akin what happened with Cat Person? I don't know. I'll read the rest of the review and find out. But Cat Person was not a story about what it's like to go on a bad date. Okay. If you can read it and come away with that as its main import, I salute you. You can't read it and come away with that as its main import. Cat Person is a short story about how there's only one worthwhile gender on Earth. But anyway, Ian Patterson does The Unmapped Country by Anna Quinn. Haven't read it. None of these house ads have Steve in them. Jeremy Harding reviews a book of poetry. Christopher Minkowski reviews Redeeming the Kama Sutra, which I never got. I saw it, but I wasn't even interested enough to really request it. So, and then we move on to the essay at the end of the piece and an appreciation of a London Review artist. Okay, so this is a hit or miss issue of the London Review of Books. It's not a hail and well met return from me to the magazine after a week where I had no literary fare. But we'll see. We'll hope for better with the package. It's absolutely tiny. Too small, in fact, I would think, even to be a slim volume of poetry. I can't imagine what it will be. What have we got here? Oh. Okay. All right. They're just very oddly shaped. I don't really know why. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. These are Picador catalogs. Oh, look at them. Look at the size of them. They're tiny. I guess they don't really need to be much bigger. So we have September to January. So this one will be of main interest because this finishes out the year. And then we also have February to August, the whole of this year so far. So we have lots of books that we'll have seen here already. We have The Chateau by Paul Goldberg, which I thought was fantastic, right up until the end, and the end is perfectly done. We have Darwin Comes to Town, that's great. Chasing New Horizons, about Pluto, about going to Pluto. Thing is, this catalog was probably made too soon for any kind of blurbs, but I loved it. I just loved it. Oh, and there's Treeborn by a very sad Caleb Johnson. Great. City of Devils by Paul French. I haven't got that yet. I really, really want it, but I haven't got it yet. Actually, maybe this is my perfect way to, yes, this is my perfect way to make sure I get a copy. Okay, good. Then a whole bunch of paperbacks. Call Me By Your Name with the movie cover. Movie cover for Call Me By Your Name, not all that bad as movie covers go. Also, Kidnapped, the kidnapping of J. Paul Getty III, which I reviewed, but I reviewed it on the other side of the world, so it doesn't matter. The paperback of Paul Auster's 4321. The paperback of Churchill's Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which does have a quote, but from the Wall Street Journal. I'm hoping that I get quoted on that book as well, because I loved it. Universal Harvester by John Darnielle. That's great. The End of Eddie. No One Can Pronounce My Name. Boy, Picador does great books. Even if I don't really like the actual content, I love the editorial vision. I really do. Okay, so this is all up until now, and then I guess as long as I've got you here and we have a little time, let's go through what remains. This is September to January, so this is everything they've got coming up. We Can't Breathe on Black Lives, White Lies, and the Art of Survival. Another novel by Volker Kushner, who did what was his last one? That had we saw the previous one of that, right? Was it Berlin Babylon or Babylon Berlin, something like that? Had the same cover style. I'm sure one of you will remember. And then, in fact, I think one of you recommended Berlin Babylon or Babylon Berlin to me Book about the Constitution. Oh, a very nice reprint of Jeffrey Eugenides' The Virgin Suicide. The Patrick Melrose novels with Benedict Cumberbatch on the cover. Prairie Fires in paperback, the book about Laura Ingalls Wilder that won the Pulitzer Prize. Great. That'll be in paperback. The Vanity Fair Diaries, but look at that. They're giving it a very Tina Brown-esque cover for the paperback. That's great. That was so much fun to read. And that's Gristmill Road will be out in paperback. Fire and Fury will be out in paperback by Michael Wolff. I reviewed it, but I don't think they're gonna. Nobody knows about the reviews that I do on the other side of the world, so I don't get blurbed, even though I do the books that require it. All right, so there you have it. That is a little batch of mail to help me dodge my responsibilities. But I'll wrap this up now, and I'll probably get back to work soon. I might make one more video, so sue me. But I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.